Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started for our October meeting. I think fall's in the air, starting to cool off a little bit. I think it's a good thing. I enjoy this time of the year. That means we have leaves about to start falling if they hadn't already. Hopefully not too many limbs, but definitely leaves. So again, welcome to our October meeting. Thank you all for your support. Last month I wasn't able to be here. Thank Mr. Hinkle for leading the council. Look forward to this week and finishing up a couple of things that we had from last month as well. So again, thank you for what you did last month. So everybody keeping the wheels on the bus rolling. So thank you for that. With that, I'll call the meeting to order. Council, you've got your packets in front of you. Any adjustments to the agenda briefing? Mr. Watt, any?
We need to add consider approval of a resolution number 3423 titled Resolution Authorizing the Town Manager to Execute Real Estate for Sale for Property Owned by the Town of Troutman. That's item 2B2. And for further clarification, that property you all already voted to sell. It's just signing the document so that it can go through its process.
All right. With that amendment, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make that motion for you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Now. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We will now follow along on our agenda.
Is there anything to be done related to Iowa War?
We need to go into closed session. Thank you.
So with that, then we did approve our agenda. Is there a motion that we amend our agenda with a closed session?
I'll so move.
We will add a closed session as item number 4.
Be 143-318.11A3. Consult with attorney.
Okay. Closed session. Is there a second to the motion to amend our agenda?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
In opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. We'll start with comments from council and myself. I'll start with Mr. Now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just got a couple questions that maybe some of our people here can answer, just to kind of clear it up. I've had a couple, this is not a complaint, this is just maybe helping them when people call town hall. Some of the elderly people that they like to put a face to who's ever answering the phone, and this is not a complaint, okay? That they could maybe identify themselves.
Okay.
Good morning, this is Eddie. You've reached Troutman Town Hall, or, you know, but it is not a complaint. They're not doing anything wrong. People just like to know who's answering the phone, so.
I actually thought that was part of our protocol. I'm disappointed to hear it's not been followed.
Well, I don't know, but
It's everybody.
people that kind of brought this to my attention. Again, they weren't complaining, town managers, but they were just wondering if they could just maybe add that. So, I mean, again, I think it'd be great because it's a nice little small town feel that they know who they're talking to.
Again, I appreciate it, and it's not necessarily being levied as a complaint, but I really thought that was part of our protocol that everybody does. But we will make sure that it is
I don't want
followed
to make such a
going
big
forward.
I think most of the time they do. I will say, when I'm up there filling in, I do not, so they could have been talking about me.
I don't
I'm
think.
sorry, Justin, what'd you say? I do not what?
He confessed, Mayor Pro Tem.
A few times I do have to, help out and answer the phone. I'll say, this is Town Troutman, how can I help you?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I'd like it noted that the finance director fell on the sword for everyone.
Something else that some of our residents has brought to my attention, and I want to, there's trash out in front of a house that I guess they just moved 2 weeks ago. How long can it stay out there before we fine them, or they got to get rid of it?
I actually spoke with the property owner. It was a tenant situation. The property owner may be moving in themselves, and they are aware. As far as the time frame on the rest, that would fall under code enforcement. I don't know, but I did speak to them first of this past week, that it was not debris that we would pick up, because I think there's some furnishings out there.
Right, there is. All right, thank you. And I know Lynn, I got a couple quick questions for Lynn. And I've been explained, but I kind of want to just get some more explaining. The car wash guy that's down on Eastway Drive. Could you bring me up to speed where we are with him?
Sure. We did follow up on that. Shane went out, spoke to him. He came in to see us, and like I said, similar to what happened with the mural guy, is the first thing we do is we tell them how they can bring that into compliance. So they need a special use permit to operate there, which they have applied for. It's going to the Board of Adjustments this month. So we will see what happens with that. The Board of Adjustments has the ability to approve that or not. We've also done a little bit of additional research. The town manager mentioned that there's a possibility that there may be some other issues with that car wash, since it's not a permanent car wash, as to how is the water being recycled on the site, where's the car wash soap and fluids and that type of thing.
Where's it going?
Where's it
That's
going?
also one of my
So
questions.
Andrew actually followed up with the state and tried to do some research with the Department of the Environmental Health, and basically a temporary car wash, there's not a lot of regulations there. The only thing is they have to be on some sort of surface that's either gravel or grass, and they are. So that was something we were a little surprised by. We thought they may have more regulations. They've got a lot more for permanent car washes, but a car wash that's on in a permanent building, there's really not as many regulations. So right now they're going through the process. It goes before the Board of Adjustments for that special use permit, and the board can choose whether or not to approve it.
So you could still operate while you're waiting for your permit? So it's like build it and then I'll get permission?
Typically, we try to work with the applicant if they are trying to bring it into compliance and they've done everything that we've requested. We do give them sort of a stay until things have been decided by that board. That's typically how we handle it.
And it's a temporary car wash,
Well, it's not considered a
because it's there every
the
day.
structure is temporary, is what it's saying. They're not building a building there,
Right.
but it will be, if they get the special use permit, they can operate there indefinitely. It will be
Because-
an approved use on the
Because one of the things that we don't want to happen is we don't want to hurt churches and we don't want to hurt schools with washing cars in the parking lot. But, I mean, this gentleman's a business operating 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And is he paying the proper taxes? Is he, is he like a business?
Yeah.
Because if I owned the car wash on the corner and some guy's working under Easy Up and his water's going everywhere and I'm in compliance, even though that car wash doesn't exist anymore, but it could, I would be a little upset that I would have to follow specific rules and regulations, and this guy can just do whatever he wants to do.
Well, in terms of zoning, which is what we enforce, we are working with him on bringing it into compliance, and then that'll be up to the Board of Adjustments. Now, in terms of taxes and those types of things, that would fall under the county as to whether or not he's paying his taxes, probably the federal government as well. I don't know how involved we as a town would get with that. But in terms of our department, is we make sure that they are in compliance with the UDO that you all
and I'm not the police for paying taxes, but, you know, it's something that everybody has to pay
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
and collect.
So, excuse me, I just want to ask, what sort of business permit do they need to pay?
Well, the state basically did away with
Right.
business license several years ago.
I'm
So
talking
there's no
locally, though.
business permit that they have to get from the town or the county. In terms of taxes, every business has to have a license, and the federal government is who they pay those taxes to. When you own your own business, I really don't know how all that works, I'm not a tax expert. Justin may know more about that than me. But in terms of licensing, the only thing they need from the planning and zoning department is a special use permit that goes before the board of adjustments.
So if that's granted, then they will have to pay a fee for that license. In other words, we charge other vendors, and you're saying the temporary, we charge other vendors, you know, when they come into town so much, you know, to get a usage or a vendor's fee, if you will, or license. What about these folks if they're considered
Well, that would not be
temporary?
a temporary use. I think you're thinking of like a food truck. That would be different. They are not like, gonna be like that. They have paid their fee for the special use permit. If it's denied, they don't get that back. There's a fee that they have to pay to go before that board, and they have paid that fee.
Just the fee to go before the board and that's it then?
That's correct. Just like any other business in town, if there's a business wants to locate here and they're in compliance with zoning, there's a $50 zoning permit we would give them to say your business is in compliance. But other than that, that would be the only permit we would give them. It's a one-time use permit, and sometimes businesses will require those for mortgage purposes or loan purposes or that type of thing. But that's really all we give through the planning and zoning department for any type of new business. If it's an existing building. Now, if it's a structure that they're building, there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more fees they pay to the town for plan review. If it has to be rezoned, then there's a lot of fees that go into that type of thing. But if it's just a business moving into an existing building, through the planning and zoning department, they pay as that.
Well, you know what concerns me, again, and this is something maybe we need to check into further, this gives us a reason to check into it, is that, you know, we you know, like someone up at the Four Brothers, they come in, they set up, you know, a snow cone cart or something, you know, we regulate that. They have to pay a usage fee to sell in this town. You know, a hot dog stand comes temporarily, you know, some of these, as you say, the food trucks. And yet, we consider these people temporary, where they could be here one day and gone tomorrow. And, as you say, they pay one fee to appeal to, or, well, to appeal to the Board of Adjustment, and that's it. If they're approved, nothing else other than just normal income tax and so forth. Am I correct in what I'm saying?
Maybe the word temporary is confusing things, because we do have an ordinance that regulates what we call a temporary use for these mobile food vendors. And it was written specifically for food trucks. And if you go to our zoning ordinance, we've got a use table, and it's got food trucks listed on there, but it also has car washes listed on there. And it says, what do you need to operate a car wash in the town of Troutman? And it says, in this zoning district, you need a special use permit. So that's the difference. So the fee for a food truck, I believe, is, I think it was I can't remember exactly, I don't want to misspeak. But the fee to go before the Board of Adjustments is a bit higher, but they would pay, yes, you're correct, they would pay that one time. Just like any other business in town, we don't go to them yearly and charge them a fee to operate in our town. Like, we don't charge Food Lion an annual fee to operate in that store. Once they're in there, they're existing, they're in the town, we don't have any type of fee that we charge them. The temporary use permit's a little bit different because they're required to move from site to site, and it's really a way to help us monitor it.
But once they use up the fee they paid for that period of time, if they choose whether they need to move or if they don't move, they have to reapply and pay another fee.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. And if we want to treat car washes that way, we can rewrite that temporary use ordinance and put car washes in there. They're just not in there right now. So when we looked at the use, we're like, well, on the use table, this is what they have to do. They have to go before the Board of Adjustments.
I mean, I follow you with the old Nick's Car Wash, you know, it was stationary for years in a building. But someone who's operating under a tent, out in the open, the grassy field, to me, that's temporary.
Right.
You know, they could, you know, one week they could say, hey, we plan to be here forever. And 2 weeks from now, you know, business is not good, they're gone somewhere else.
And I feel very similar to you, to be honest with you. It's very much a gray area. And when it came in, it's sort of a, you know, where do we put this thing? So that's where we are with it. And then I agree with you, and I understand your concerns, and I think that there might be a better way we can handle it, but we're trying to deal with it within the parameters of the ordinance that we have.
Sure, I understand that.
It doesn't paint a pretty picture of our town. A guy with an easy up washing cars in a lot.
Yes, sir.
Does he, like the food vendors, have a time period before they have to move? Does this car wash have to move after a certain amount of days?
No, if they get the special use permit now.
Yeah, I think what Lynn is saying, maybe that's a request from council, is maybe go back and look at if there's an opportunity for us to include temporary, again, using that term, but temporary establishments or businesses around the town, and what does that look like outside of a physical structure? And I think, again, you have to be a little bit, I would say, flexible with it, because again, you could pull in some other things, you know, unintended, you know, for that. So, but maybe bring something back to council that would help us clarify, you know, what this gray area is, which is, sounds like where, you know, he may be operating in.
And the mayor stole my thunder. I'm sorry. Mayor stole my thunder. That's what I was gonna ask. Maybe we just need, I don't have it in front of me, but like, maybe we just need to look at this whole use table. You know, instead of trying to put our finger in the hole when it pops up. Maybe if we need to have a more comprehensive approach to it, so we don't get caught off guard
Right,
like
and
this.
we have a section that talks about temporary uses. Car washes aren't on there. So we have car washes on the use table. So when someone comes and says, I'm operating a car wash, we don't have anything in our ordinance that says, well, you have to build a building to run a car wash. So that's sort of that gray area there. But there's definitely other ways that we can address it going forward. But we are trying to deal with this particular use of what we have at the time when it occurred. So, but I hear you, and we can definitely look at that use table. We can definitely look at the temporary use section in UDO and bring some things to you all for consideration.
That was
So
the point that I was going to focus on that Lynn just explained. Part of the issue that I've received from citizens in here, and you all speak, I think, is sounding the same thing, is we're mixing the word temporary versus what the definition in the state size of temporary. There's nothing that we know of that these people's not intending on being there 10 years. That in itself makes it not temporary. But then if we start regulating how a business has to be run, if it has to be a stick-built building or whatever type shelter, that can get us into trouble. I certainly understand and have heard from several citizens and some of you all that have reached out to me of why perception-wise it may not be the best look or the best intent. But it's also one of those things, as one of you all pointed out, if we start regulating the wrong way, then you're affecting a lot of nonprofits that are doing it on the weekend, or they may do it 6 times a year. So I think, to me, the definition boils down to what our mind is hearing as temporary versus what the reality is. And this particular family, and speaking with the property owner that has allowed them to set up there, are a family in need and have tried to apply for jobs, and they basically come up with an idea of this is how we are at least trying to make money and make a living instead of drawing from the government. And I'm not excusing that, therefore should give it a pass to do what they're doing. I'm just saying, as we look for a resolution or options to pick from, I don't know that there is a perfect answer that will protect us from what appears to be in our mind temporary types of business or things going forward. If it's a mobile food truck, that's obvious what that is. They're not intending on building a brick and mortar building. There's some cities, and I'm afraid to say it because somebody will start doing it next week, but for example, the food service, some towns near us, people pull a whole grill behind their vehicle and show up at a business and sell off the grill. And that's not in code or in zoning in most places. But you've got a lot of different people trying to make a living in different ways. A lot of people don't like that. But at the same token, all the businesses that they visit, they appreciate it or they wouldn't keep coming back. So to me, it's one of those things, while visually, a lot of people may have a hard time accepting it or appreciating it. I also think business is not good, and that may take care of itself,
If I can make
especially in the season we're coming up on.
And if I can make one comment too, it is just, if the special use permit is approved, that means that they will have to comply with ordinance requirements. And there's a lot of things that they're not complying with currently. So if they wanna run a business on that property, there's things that they're gonna need to do. Most businesses have to have a parking, make sure they have adequate parking, that they've got landscaping, their signage is permanent, there's things that we will require them to do. So that will help the aesthetic part of it, and it may also have other impacts on their business, but that's something that we will require.
Mr. Now?
Yes, I have one last thing, I apologize. Could Lynn bring me up to date on not the business owner, but the owner of the building that the mural is on East Wing?
We sent them a notice of violation and told them that they had 30 days to bring it into compliance. And I believe that deadline is coming up here in the next week. So once that happens, we will start finding, and Doug and I have talked about this, we'll be finding the business owner as well as the property owner. And we have had no response. We've gotten no response to that letter.
Really?
I will say, I got a phone call from the business owner, and I have called him back 3 times, but his voicemail is full. When I drove by and went to speak to him, he walked into his business, so I didn't force myself into a conversation.
Thank you. I'm done, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Lynn.
Mr. Harris?
I just got a couple things. One is to thank our staff for all the work they've been doing recently, and I know Doug's been out doing this. For the biggest complaints I get a lot of times from people is the crosswalks here on Wagner Street. And I've talked about the blinking lights that we're looking at getting in there, and hopefully they'll see them up there soon. And they see at least we're trying to do something, because the other battle I told you, DOT, this one going one outside of their approval, because we didn't ask for approval, we're just gonna do it. They said we can go for it. But the other is the speeding on West and Southeast Way and Gibson, and I've told them the things we're doing. At least I got a good story to tell with putting in the speed tables on West. I said, and increased patrols on East Way. And when I talked to one guy, he mentioned, yeah, there is increased patrols over here. But they said, while they're there, we can keep it slowed down. But at the end of the day, if they shoot up through there and another road gets blocked, it turns into an expressway. I said, well, and we'll just keep trying to do that. But at least we're seeing those things. And then, of course, Gibson and Church, Winchester was looking at, is there a possibility to go with a 4-way stop sign because of the traffic, 2 areas you're coming down the hill into, and it just picks up speed through there. So I told them you were looking at that one. So those are, at least we have some answers when people ask us, we are starting to actively look at these things and try to address some of it. I told them the speed tables you had met with a contractor here a while back, so I said, maybe before winter you may see that on that street, at least one of them.
We are hoping to give you an update, the entire council and those watching an update. We are hoping that will be completed this month, weather permitting. In addition to that, because of the stoplight on Main Street, there has been a detour of a lot of traffic on East Way, and we are also considering trying to put a speed table at the crosswalk section where it comes from the Fit Trail over to the Greenway, is put one there, and possibly even a little bit further south. We'll just have to determine where's the best place south on East Way to put it that we can control as a town street, because this part here is ours. Once you go further south, way south, it's not. It's a state road.
And it helps a lot that we have answers for people. We can at least say, this is what we're working on now. You'll see something soon. And
I told them I thought before the end of the year they'd see at least one of the tables be completed on West, and I told them where they were going to, so they're pleased, they're kind of excited seeing that going. The other is I get this other questions, and I don't really know the answer, because when is the groundbreaking for the food line out there? We thought it was gonna be like September or early October, and the Tractor Supplies or anything on it. You know?
Lynn may be better able to answer on food line. I know, in speaking with one of the, I wouldn't know whether to say developer or property owner or both, the project is on pace, but I can't answer to what their pace
Yeah,
is.
because I thought I'd seen something, someone's mentioned back in like early fall, there'd be a groundbreaking for that, and then whoever.
All I can answer is that Food Lines, we've approved their plans, so they've gone through everything with the town, and we've given their approvals. I don't know where they are with the county. Do you have any idea? So now it's the building permitting process. I don't know where they are with
So
that.
all the stuff in the town has been approved,
Correct.
okay. Because, you know, that, I think they're looking at out that way, you know, the Dollar General and the food line, they're starting to get things out there, all those communities, because they're all connected, you know, all the way up down through to by the charter schools, they're kind of looking into that, so.
And the Tractor Supply is, we're still reviewing their plans, but I think we're getting close on that one. I think there's,
Okay, because they said, well, keep hearing about this, when's it gonna happen? I said, well, soon. That's my answer every time, it's soon, but, how soon is soon. But anyhow, those are a couple things I had, but at least we are doing some right things out there, so it's.
Just above in your ear, Food Line was back before the DRB recently. Evidently, they're still trying to, the design of the building, you know, looks of the building. So, you know, that's what they are, and it's just been, a week or two ago?
last week.
So,
Yeah, last week,
they can
so
slow it
that's,
down a
you
little
know.
I don't know about you, but I thought that the improvement, that there was an improvement to the awnings and they're adding more glass, so it'll be literally. I thought
Yeah, it looks good, yeah. I like the change, it looks better.
Yeah.
No offense, sir.
It's just nice to have the answers. When people ask you, we're not into dark
I was
arts.
gonna comment, but I'm not commenting, so.
Like that's pretty all I had. That's-
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Ms. Harris?
Just quickly, I was hoping Josh was gonna be here, I was just gonna say, commend his guys. I know they're just doing their job, but still, it means a lot. You know, I've seen the, with the robbery, and then I think I saw a lady that got arrested with her daughter, the 1-year-old daughter in the car. I was like, I'm glad nothing happened to the kid, and they were able to stop her at the time. So I just want to commend them on the great job that they're doing around our town. It just makes me and the other residents feel really safe. They really care about it. Congrats to the South Adder High School band. I'm not, you know, my son is in the band, so I have to say that. But they went down to Ledford High School and came in first place and overall for their class, and then won all of the areas except for 2. So congrats to them for their win on that. I didn't attend the Bluegrass event, but I bringing my son down here to play. But it was a lot of people down here, like 3 o'clock. I don't think it started till like 6.
It's going on right now.
It was something the other day.
That's how long we stay in here.
right. This was the other day. It was something.
Last Monday.
Yeah, last Monday. And I was like, I thought it didn't start till like 6, but people were here like 3 or 4 hours early, with the chairs and everything. I was like, our town really loves these events. So thank you to the staff and everybody who's putting this on for us, giving us many things to do. The last thing, Duck and I briefly talked about this, but I wanted to bring it here. Where the apartments are off of Wynkoff, we know that the buses come and can pick up students and take the students home, but you see a lot of foot traffic. They're going through the insurance place and crossing that busy street, going over to the school still. And so I was just wondering if it's possible for us to even think about, well, not necessarily us, but request another crosswalk right there, because they're doing it. And it's just dangerous, people walking across there right there. So I wanted to bring that to your attention and definitely talk about it.
I will follow up with the planning department, and so they can talk to the state. As you and I spoke, we have the one that's fairly close. I do not know off the top of my head, do you know off the top of your head, the distance requirements for crosswalks? Other than that, it simply will be up to them, but we certainly can discuss with them and see all the factors that go into it, and then I'll be happy to report back.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, great. Mr. Archer?
Thank you, Mayor. It's good to have you back.
Thank you.
Yeah, like you said, weather's changing a little bit. I know we got several town events that are coming up this month that I know that me and my family are looking forward to, as well as some others in the community. So I think we're going to have a good month. I would also like to commend both the town manager and staff, Public Works. We had a little water, let's call it a hiccup, earlier this week, and the response was lightning fast. The situation was resolved. Town manager got the information to all of us, and then we knew before anybody else. So I just want to say thank you, and of course to the guys that were turning the screws. Yeah, thank you for taking care of that, being right on top of it. So I know that helped out a lot of people. So thank you.
Yeah, something about losing your water, it just kind of upsets people for some reason, I don't understand it. Well, as usual, kudos to everything that was said. That'll probably be my biggest say, and Eddie, thank you for bringing up some things there that got me to thinking. Appreciate it. I had heard about that, but I thought maybe it might be just a temporary thing, and not just ongoing. And I'm not, nothing against it. As the town manager pointed out, these people seem to have the right intentions, and I appreciate that. But it's good that we keep them within the confines of our ordinances and so forth, and make sure that they are legal. Lest we're opening the door for others want to come in and do what they do and say, well, you did it for this one, you need to do it for me. So I appreciate that, and I look forward to you looking into the matter further and seeing what we may need to adjust or leave alone. As always, appreciate the town staff. Justin, I'd call up here sometimes, and I'm still trying to get the old days. I knew who answered the phone, I knew who it was, but with changing staff and so forth, I trying to get to know people. So I'll have to ask them. I said, who am I talking to? And there'll be a pause. They'll probably say, well, this is Jane or Susan or Pam or whoever. I'm throwing out names, just so I can put a name to a voice. Being in sales for many years, I've got to go by voices, and you didn't even have to identify yourself. But that's good, and I agree. I guess it was Eddie brought that up, that the older people is like me. They like to put a face to a name and a name to a face and so forth, and the old school. And so yeah, might mention it to them. I agree. No complaints. The ladies are nice as they can be, and again, it's just my quirk, and I like to put other people could care less. Some of the younger generations, if it's not on an electronic gizmo or something, you could care less. And so forth. So anyway,
I'll
but
make sure to remind
just
and make myself do it.
yeah. What was it called? Oof, to what he suggested. But but again, thank you for the heads up. The water, yeah. By the time I said something to Rose about it, she wasn't even aware of it, and went in and turned the water on. It's flowing. I said, what problem? So always like that. The problem beats the people noticing it. It's always good PR. So thank you to the town, to the staff. Thank you to the staff especially. Do appreciate it and everything. So I'm ready to go with the meeting, sir.
Great, thank you. One thing, again, I appreciate all the comments that folks have had, and asking those questions so that we can get clarification on issues that are going on within the town, so that we can at least have robust conversations around how it should look or best work for our town. I had one request that someone brought up to me, and I'm not big on social media, so apparently it was floating around out there on social media, a request for some type of event sign. Maybe we can ask Iredell County to look at event signs so that when there are large events at the fairground, maybe they can post those in specific places. I know you'd like to have those conversations, so I'm gonna ask our manager if he would maybe bring that up with the county manager around event sign so that are also helping to redirect traffic, so folks know before it happens, in terms of just jamming up traffic in this area. So just an idea or a thought, but
I can already say I have addressed that previously. And the answer that I received was due to the intentions of redesigning and redeveloping the fairgrounds, they did not want to spend any monies on a sign and then have to tear it down, rebuild it, move it, do whatever. But going forward, that is the intent, is to have a nice display sign listing what the events, not only that will be immediately upon, but to let people know in advance, maybe as much as a month, that such and such will be coming. Depending on how big the event center will be, there may be multiple signs, but definitely they want to do that going forward. They just have not spent the funds yet because they know the current facility is basically a tear down and redo, assuming that it stays here. As we discussed in, I believe it was last month's newsletter, you all as a council appeared before commissioners several years ago and asked that it remain and volunteered to do our part as to what we could do to help it remain here. And I put in the newsletter for citizens to contact either you all and or the county commissioners and let them know their desires, one way or the other, pro or con. That way you all would have a better idea. Yes, fight for it, or the majority wants it gone. For the comments that I've had, I've only had one that said get it out of town, and they didn't live in town. So how they got the copy of our newsletter, I don't know. But everybody else liked the fact that it was here. There was a couple comments about tax base versus non, but they seemed to understand that due to the potential events that could occur at the facility, that we would have a lot of sales tax, passer-throughs, possibly hotels in the future that would also benefit the town big picture wise versus it just being property tax of a different development. So I appreciate the comments that I have gotten in a lot of the discussion, but to answer your specific point, yes, we have had those discussions and will continue. I think the county also got an additional funding source, so it's my understanding they have enough money now to at least proceed and go forward with the first phase with money that's on hand. So hopefully that will help expedite the decision as well.
so let me clarify my statement on signage. These would be temporary signs. So for example, if you were going up to I-40 to Tanglewood, for example, to look at the lights, put up those type signs
The
that
road
says,
type signs.
the road type signs that says, maybe there's one closer to 42 saying, hey, there's a major event going on or something to that effect, so that it would not, as traffic would end up coming in this direction, they would know there's a major event going on. So just putting something like that in some of the major corridors.
Sure.
Again, I appreciate the updates. I assume the jetter's getting plenty of use.
Yes,
I actually saw it in my neighborhood as well when I was heading out of town. So it was my first time seeing it in action. So the guys were using it pretty good. And lastly, I appreciate the fire department because I had to call them today as I got home. And I think I was away when the explosion happened, or I was somewhere there off of Brawley. But I had a gas leak, so they had to come out and turn my gas off today. So I appreciate they were there pretty quickly. So again, I appreciate Troutman Fire being there for not just me, but our citizens when those things happen. So with that, I will go ahead and go into staff items. Turn it over to Mr. Wyatt.
The first thing I would like to address is the obvious. Our police chief is not with us today due to some nasty circumstances that occurred this past Friday. Statesville and West football game are playing at South Iredell. And we've got most of, well, a good many of our off-duty officers and the chief up there due to the threat of potential violence, making sure this football game gets played without incident. And then after that, there's a school board meeting that is also anticipating a different kind of fireworks, hopefully. It'll be just verbal, but our police department is getting a lot of overwork today due to the Iredell Statesville Schools facilities being in our town. Statesville Police, I would like to send a thank you to them. Their police chief reached out to ours, understanding that this initial incident that started was in their city, and I appreciate them in sending officers down here as well, even though they didn't have to. It just goes to show that all the law enforcement in Iredell County generally reach out and communicate very well, and I appreciate that. Other than that, I appreciate all the work that everybody has been doing. I will talk about a couple staff members during our briefing of the upcoming meeting, but I would like to thank staff and everyone for the job that they have done, as you all have pointed out in different avenues and observances that you've made.
May I ask a question? Well, is that gonna have the same impact this coming Friday?
We can't say that a lot of this is, the main perpetrators, as I understand it, were arrested, were guilty, or can't be guilty until they're tried, were suspected of being the shooters in a previous incident involving juvenile children earlier in the year. One of the suspects had been had eight outstanding warrants, and they had been looking for him. They just hadn't been able to locate him. In his brainiac way, he shows up threatening to do more harm to the opposing side, which goes to show how much of a smart person he is. And he was identified and taken into custody. Another firearm was located in the vehicle, which gives some credence to whether that was a legitimate threat or not. At least the potential was there. Outstanding warrants suspected of already shooting a child, and then there's a gun in the vehicle with him and 2 more males. So there were some drug charges that were not, I won't say that drug charges can be insignificant, but it was minor amounts of drugs that was located in the vehicle. But all 3 were charged with something.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is Resolution 3423, authorizing the town manager to execute a real estate sale for property owned by the town of Troutman. Mr. Wyatt.
As you will see, clerk passed out paperwork of the contract for the property that, first of all, the first page shows you the actual parcel of property that is to be sold. Second page is just the old deed from where we had this property in 1924. And we had to promise to let those people raise a garden on it as long as we owned it. We fulfilled that. And then there's the offer to purchase by the current bidder, just for the public's knowledge that did not keep up with the process. It being property that we are selling, we did use the realtor that we normally use, Mike Todd with Rural Properties. We listed the property for sale once you all agreed that it was okay to do that. It being government property, we held the bid, held that price open for a 10-day period for upsets. The initial price was upset numerous times. The final price was $181,912.50 for the .79 acre lot, which I think exceeded everybody's guesstimate of what we could get for it if it was sold. It was also agreed that that would come off of the purchase price of what we paid for the Dollar General location. So that's where it is, and again, this resolution is only giving me the authority to sign the contracts on the town's behalf if you all so agree. And the only reason I did it this way is that the closing dates moved 3 or 4 times. And depending on when the mayor, who is normally the one that would sign the contract availability, I did not want to burden him with it. If he's available, he certainly can sign, but if not, it gives me the authority to do it on y'all's behalf.
I was just asking, the buyer Throwback Properties,
That's the name of their company, yes, sir.
okay, is it local folks or?
I honestly have no idea. I know they have made an inquiry wanting to know if we had more property to sell.
So the intent to sell is published in the newspaper.
It was.
It was
Any
the
other
50
questions?
50 cents that put them over the top, right?
Yes, and also MAS.
Any other questions for Mr. Wyatt? If no-
Just for clarity, you know, we had a little deed question there. Obviously, that's been worked out.
Yes. Justin just left me, but yes.
Okay,
I cannot explain why, but back when the $1 million bonds was done for street improvements, it was $1 million total. That is the only property that was used to secure that loan, and we have no idea how or why it was allowed or decided for that property, because we couldn't find it in the minutes anywhere that what council said to do. But at the time, the property tax value was in the $20-some thousand range. No clue how it wound up being,
right.
but the lender removed it.
No, okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay. If not, can I get a motion to approve Resolution 3423?
I'll make that motion, sir, to approve resolution 3423.
Is there a second?
Second.
All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is an overview of the upcoming meeting. And over to Mr. Wyatt.
On the consent agenda, items 1, 2, 3 are normal business matters. Number 4, approval of design review board, that's in your packet. Utica, if I'm pronouncing that correct, DRB met and unanimously recommended approval, subject to an awning be added to the rear door in the pedestrian area. If y'all got any other questions, I or Lynn would be happy to try to answer. That is located at 303 Murdoch Road. Hearing none. Number 5, approval of a high-density permit for Tractor Supply. That also went to, I'm sorry, this is Andrew Ventresca back here to help. It was annexed into our town. This allows it, and basically the staff report is, even though it's not 100%, when, as our UDO states or suggests, it is close enough in its concert with the area that we believe it to be beneficial. Be glad to answer any other questions if you all have.
I have a question for Andrew on between that one and number 6, which are both high-density storage. But it was just like, in the second paragraph in the background on both of them, one of them said, you know, that the HB district allowed for a maximum lot coverage of 80%. However, the site is located in a water supply shed and is limited to a maximum impervious area of 24% of lots with curb and gutter. Then it said the site plan shows 49. When I tried to look in the next one over, the storage bill, it said that, again, it's maximum 80%. But it says that it's limited to a maximum impervious area of 36% without curbs and gutters. So I just wonder, what's the difference between those two? I'm trying to,
Well, with the Tractor Supply, they're gonna be building a new roadway on site, which will be under the town's purview, and our requirements require curb and gutter.
okay, so that changes that number.
Yes, so where the storage building, that's gonna be on two NCDOT roads, and you will not require curb and gutter on those road frontages, so that's your difference in 24 versus 36.
Okay, I was like looking through and I thought, well, the one of them had without it, and I was wondering exactly what's going on there being different, because, you know, the same maximum is 80%. Okay,
So you're having to include curb gutter as well as the road that's in between, when you're
Yeah,
talking improvements.
basically, if you've got curb and gutter, you're probably gonna have a higher percentage of storm water runoff, so that percentage is gonna be smaller. But as staff reports say for both, that West Consultants are reviewing the actual calculations for stormwater, so long as they don't have any problem with it, that.
okay.
And Andrew, just a question, why would they consider these businesses high density versus residential, which?
Well, if, high density only involves, the watershed, so it's just impervious area cover. Now, with the residential stuff, what Lynn and I have been doing with our conditional zonings, since most of our residential is conditional, we've been putting all that stuff in the rezoning staff report, so that's been kind of covered.
Not my mind. I'm sorry. You completely left.
Y'all good?
One more question. There's a note here in terms of the council approving this. It's got to meet certain conditions, and one being it will not endanger the public health or safety. An example of endangering public health and safety.
I would say probably if we had some kind of like topography where you're seeing some runoff, maybe that. And again, when we start reviewing these plans, and Wes is our engineer consultant, they look at all that. If there is any concerns, the plans will be stopped. But that's for runoff, or if you're seeing just high density development in areas, and I'm talking about high density, probably closer to that 80%. Well, that's in a supply watershed, maybe then we want to look at that.
And is there a follow-up after, so you all would follow up after the engineers take a look at it to ensure we're still in compliance?
That's right.
Mayor, brought it back to mind. It's similar to what you're asking. I noticed in the Tractor Supply, one of the conditions was, you know, if we approve this, it's subject to West Consultants approving it, and I think there was the state government agency involved perhaps approving it and so forth. But I didn't notice that same statement in the storage unit down at Barksdale. You know, contingency. In other words, obviously it was in there about best management practices, et cetera, not a danger of public health, but again, it was, you know, you didn't have the statement, at least I didn't see it, subject to, West Consultants, agreeing to West Consultants' determinations, as well as, you know, whoever oversees West Consultants' reports
That
from
should
the
be a
state.
blanket statement.
Excuse me?
That's gonna be a blanket statement.
Okay.
And probably any more of these that the board sees, so long as West Consultants use it, it says these calculations look right. Staff's not gonna go in
I
and.
just want to make sure that because it was black and white on one and not necessarily on the other, I just wanted to make sure that that is standard boilerplate, that it is subject to all of the other, comes after, okay.
Since we're talking about both of these, just so that I'm clear, the Norman Creek subdivision was good sharing some of their percentages, I guess. Okay.
And both of those, the Norman Creek subdivision and this Troutman storage, both of their, basically engineering documents are under review right now. So it's kind of a good time, so West is reviewing both at the same time.
Okay.
Now, I also, you know, point out that you had 3 lots, Tractor Supply, 3 lots. And you had reserved for the first lot, you know, for the second lot that the store's going on. They've got a retention pond on that third lot, so I'm sure that helped out in, again, best management practices for the stormwater.
And that lot, that third lot is gonna hold the stormwater pond, that's being designed, taking runoff from both lot tractor supplies being built on and whatever comes in. on that front lot. So, as part of the conditions for that particular one, and if we do approve that one, we might as well just approve that first lot right now, so we don't.
Okay.
As you all did discuss both, I'll be happy to answer any questions on number 6, if there's any specific to that.
Didn't we have a ruling or an UD at one time that we had to get it instead, because the storage building's there and Safe Nest is right across the street, within a distance of,
The ones, we do have in our UDO that storage units can only be within, I think it's a mile with one another, but the ones across the street are in the county and does not count toward our ordinance of
okay.
being within
I
a mile.
thought I remembered something,
Even though they are close, they're in the county and this one's in our town limits.
so they don't have to be.
Correct.
Okay. I just remember there was something back there. We were-
People across the street wanted it to apply, but it doesn't.
I understand that.
Number 7, resolution support of the town Troutman for CRTPO discretionary funding from improvements to the North Main Street Murdoch Road. Andrew made a bigger map for all of you all to see. I too asked him some questions about this evening, and I saw a smaller version earlier. He is meeting with DOT. This is not a final, this is the way it's going to be. This is just a concept of what is talked about. It's adding lanes on Main Street, north and south of the intersection, but it's also improving the intersection coming off of Old Mountain Road and aligning this up to be a lot more safe. It would be a lot more pedestrian and bike friendly for those that are using those services. But we will see, 1, how well it scores, and 2, to get DOT to approve some of the plans that he is wanting to come up with. Funding from DOT side, we know is not there, so that's one of the things that you all would need to decide if you choose to go along with this and allow it, is what percentage of you want Andrew to ask for. And what I mean by that is, typically these projects, they will not fund them unless the town is willing to do a certain percentage and then matching funds, if you will. Typically, the less money the town puts in, the less favor it gets with the board. So that's as simple and as straightforward as that can be. We can start out in the 15–25% range, but if we want to guarantee a higher approval or success or appetite, then that's where we would maybe want to consider you all to go higher on the percentage. Andrew can certainly tell you, having served with some of these folks, what is historically good, but typically it's in that 3rd to 50th percentile range that really draws their attention more than 10 to 20% matches. Andrew, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, with this, this is discretionary funding, which is, it's available once a year through CARPO, and this year they have 62 million available, and there is a federal required minimum 20% match from the local government, so 20% is the lowest you can go. In speaking with CARPO staff, they said that last year the average local match from what was approved projects that were actually funded was somewhere between 27 and 28%. I'd broken it down in the staff report, what the town would be on hook for if we do 20, 25. And as town manager Wyatt mentioned, that I'll be meeting with CARPO, so this design might change a little bit. CARPO just recently hired an engineer on staff. It's been without one for about 6 months. And he had some ideas to maybe look at the impacts on some of the surrounding properties in this intersection, minimize those. So there's potential that that right-of-way number you see on the staff report could go down a little bit. And one thing CARPO does require, and it's probably a good thing, there's 40% contingency in all projects. Just because within the last 10 years, there's been such shortfalls on this project, the cost of it keep escalating. So that's included in these numbers.
Okay. Andrew, quick question. What is the yellow line representing?
Those are going to be improvements to the sidewalks and bridges.
Okay. That's what I was thinking. That the one that's coming off of Murdoch seemed like it left part of our greenway there, but then picked up and connected. So they would match whatever type of greenway we have. So I guess both of these would be asphalt. Okay.
And the main improvement to the greenways you'll see is that bicycle pedestrian plan we had adopted back in April. There were some basically high crosswalks and signals and stuff at this intersection. So that's all going to be included in this project.
And to follow up with the mayor, or with what the mayor asked you about the yellow, what about the red? A little bit of red on 21, especially north intersection, and then over on the Old Mountain Road improvement, there's a red line right next to the yellow. What does the red indicate?
That's basically just going to be your right.
Okay. All right. Leaves me another question, and again, it's always about the money. I agree. I'm, obviously, for me, that, I'm thinking 30%. We're not going to get their attention unless we do 30%. But you brought up in the report, very good suggestion. Number one, approach the state, since we're taking away, adding to that someday I may be dead, but someday this is going to be done out here, and we're going ahead and taking, we're improving on the project, and I don't know what the number was, the project through the town. We'll take some substantial funds going ahead and doing part of that project, so the state hopefully would kick in a little bit, helps on that, but other big would be the Wakefield. I think they've agreed to help us on that, at that intersection, have they not?
We, town manager, myself, and Lynn, if approved, if we're going to open up discussions with them.
Yeah.
PIA for Wakefield, they involve some significant improvements to this intersection. So from a cost standpoint, I think it would be a benefit to go ahead.
Well, and again, and I don't want to put the town's neck out there and have it chopped off, but, if you two gentlemen, my faith's in you two gentlemen, would recommend 30 or 35 to really get the attention, I would love to see that intersection improved. Obviously, I'm pushing for that as much as I can, but again, I don't want to put the town's neck out there monetarily and have it chopped off, and I feel very bad about this.
Well, I think this is, to your point, this is a number one priority intersection, I think, for the town, at least close to it, if not the number one. And it's a major crossroad, and so we've talked about this intersection quite some time, and I would agree with you. I mean, the difference between 20% and 30% is roughly $545,000. And if it's going to move us up and give us a better chance of getting those dollars, I would say we move forward to invest that. I mean, there's as difficult as it's been to get this intersection moving. I think it would mean a lot to the citizens to get that intersection done. Just for folks thinking, did the calculations based on Andrew's numbers here. Between 20% and 25%, that's a couple $100,000, just a little over that. But again, for what it's worth, I think it'd be a good spend for citizens' tax dollars to get that intersection done, and having those conversations with Wakefield and the state if we can't produce that.
As I mentioned before, my grandson had brought it up to me as the biggest issue, and he tells me about others that have been close calls out there with his kids going to South Iredale. There's been a lot of close calls in that little section, so it would be a great improvement.
Yeah.
Or we've been fortunate we've not had anybody hit, I know of.
Do we need to wait Thursday night to give a number? You know, 25, 30, whatever?
Sure.
Would you prefer waiting Thursday night? Go ahead and make
And
it.
since it's on the agenda,
Okay.
I think you need to decide the percentage
yeah,
tonight, that way Thursday, it's all on the consent already.
Yeah, that's what I was, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, that's what I was asking, yeah, okay.
yeah.
I recommend 30%, that's me, I recommend 30%.
We got 30%.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
second that.
Or I'll make a motion then, 30%.
Motion's on the floor to,
May I speak before you all finish your, well, it's hard to say.
discussion.
I appreciate everything you all said, but if I could move you for the same points of everything you all said, and yes, I realize it's a couple $100,000, but I do think with Lynn and Andrew and with the relationship that we might be able to have with Wakefield with that project coming on, to further make sure we score a little bit better, if you would consider going to 35. 30 has been some of these others. If average is 28, that means others have already been 35 or higher. So I do think it's, as you all said, a very important artery to our town, and I would ask that you go a little higher if you could.
I appreciate you making that point in discussion. That's, I was gonna bring up the exact point, but again, open to any other thoughts or conversations. 35 too high, too,
No, I think 35 to get our foot in the door and possibly win it with the state, with Carpo, especially with that intersection. I mean, at South Iredell High School in the morning, everybody knows what they're dealing with in the afternoon.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's gonna take a lot of burden and make traffic a lot easier in the morning and afternoon, so. To win it, I like our manager and our mayors. So I guess maybe Mr. Hinkle will rescind his motion.
I will amend my motion to 35%.
Okay.
So Andrew, what do you think of our chances if we go to that point? You-
I think chances of being awarded funding are definitely higher at 35. I do think, even that number is 27
It definitely increases our chances.
Do you want to read my amended motion? Or a second?
Yeah.
Okay.
So a question I
Yeah,
have,
okay,
I
I'll
hate to,
second that amended motion.
I hate to plant a seed that I hope never sprouts, but the, so it looks like, I think you may know where I'm going, right? But it looks like just shy of $5.5 million for the total estimated cost. Is that right, Andrew?
That's right.
And so we would be looking at a, what, maybe just shy of 1.9, maybe a tick over, at a 35% match, ballpark.
Yeah.
And so I understand that, you know, having a good relationship with the developers of Wakefield, and, you know, yes, it would behoove them to help us, but how do I ask this?
Let me jump in if I may.
Thank you.
They're gonna have to do improvements there,
Mm-hmm.
similar to what we have done elsewhere. Instead of saying, go do those improvements, now let us tear it up and do it the right way, we can suggest that they do a fee in lieu of, and then it can go in toward the overall project. Which, we're gonna have to spend the money one way or the other.
TIA has that intersection, they have some stuff to do, don't they?
I can
They're
just-
gonna have to spend the money one way or the other.
Yeah, the timing is not perfect, but it needs to get done.
Oh, I know, I totally
Right,
agree.
right, yeah.
But my concern
Yeah,
is,
I know.
is so much as, again, this is a naive point of view, right? But if I'm a developer and,
Yeah, we can't, yeah,
well, hey, well, look, you got to,
yeah.
what do you need me for?
Well, again, so you're talking, we're doing, you know, probably just over, like I said, 1.9, but the cost of this is still much higher. And I think to the manager's point, you know, there's always other intersections that's gonna have to occur to get Wakefield for this to happen. And I think there's plenty of opportunity for us to work with them on that.
And the flop side of that discussion, if you're not willing to do this, we don't proceed forward with it, then you've got to spend all your money anyway.
There we go, okay. I'm satisfied.
Other discussion, as there is a motion on the floor and a second, amended motion and a second. Other questions or comments? Motion on the floor is that we make our percentage 35%, which will, Andrew will ensure that we get the, I'm not gonna hold him to that, but,
Should we
Yeah.
include? Should we run it by this one?
yeah, that's a great question. Is there funding,
What's the time frame on this?
what would our time frame be, Andrew?
Well, you're looking at least probably 2 years per phase. So, you know, I think 6 years would be probably generous.
Let me ask this question. All right, we do, let's say playing devil's advocate, we do 35%. All right, Wakefield doesn't really want to work with us, the state doesn't really want to work with us, so we've got our neck out there for close to $2 million. We're awarded discretionary funds requested based on 35. Do we still have to accept at the time? Can we not reject it at the time, and we're not obligated? We're not obligated, we can say, we've changed our mind?
So long as we don't accept any funds. So as long as if we get awarded the funding, that's good. But if we don't use any of that funding to start the actual design of the intersection, we can say, you know, times are tight, budgets have changed. We just like this money to go back into the current law.
Exactly. I mean, that's, to me, that's for caught up to sleep. I'd hate that to happen, obviously, but I'm saying for someone who, you know, and I understand where Jerry's coming from, and that's why I said I hate to put the town's monetary neck out there, but and get it chopped off. But you know, if times do become tough, and we at the time we can, as long as you say, we haven't started the ball rolling, so to speak, spending funds, then we can reject the
Kind of
award.
like the next item on the agenda. Even though we ask, sometimes it's free money, you still have to go through and understand all the criteria. They will award it because, and it's clearly defined in contractual form, this is what happens to get it. So there will be at least one, and if I'm not mistaken, 2 more phases that it comes back for you all. One, there's 2 more, that it'll come back before you all, just like the next item before it's actually done, and then the town's yes or no.
I think that's the smart call, because the more explanation I get, it sounds more like this is a great opportunity for us to try to save one of our local developing partners $3 million on a major project. And if they don't want to participate,
Yeah. Again, you know.
we're not on the hook.
Exactly. We still have an option to bow out, even if this awarded, as long as he says we haven't gone ahead and jumped the gun. We can refuse it.
That's
You know, I would hate to do that, but if we can refuse it, we can, so.
But exactly what you said is how some people would interpret that at face value. The town went and they could have done this intersection, or they could have done that intersection. Why didn't they just make the developer fix it ABC and then use their money elsewhere? This is an example, we're accomplishing a couple things, not just what the developer is required to do, but we're adding enhancements that we want to for even longer term. And we're also trying to enhance the other properties that have nothing to do with this developer that protects us long term. So if there is such a phrase as this is a win-win for all parties involved, this scenario is actually there to where hopefully it is a win-win for all parties involved. But it does not save the developer over what they're gonna have to spend. What is it, 50-some intersections they gotta make some type of improvement on to some degree? we're just taking this one off of that plate and enhancing it even more so than the minimum standards that was gonna be required.
Absolutely.
Other questions or comments?
I think this is great.
Can you answer any
You're
questions?
you're looking at me for an answer.
Yeah.
Well, I would suggest, if you move forward with it, and the thing about not being on the hook for it makes me feel real good. But, you know, come budget time, you allocate some money in the budget to start saving up.
We kind of already are, even though we have said we're saving one pot of money for a future town hall. As these additional growth monies come on there, that is one of the things that we did say this past year to remind you all that we would also start doing is for street and roadway improvement. We still get Powell bill money, but it's not to that magnitude.
Motion's on the floor, received the second. I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. It'll be, assume, updated for Thursday night.
Number 8 is approval of resolution 3123 titled Resolution of Town Council, Town of Troutman, accepting state grant and loan funding for 2022 sewer collection rehab project. And this just clarifies what I was explaining earlier, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Last year, we had asked for, the state gave us a million in their annual budget last year. Then we asked for additional funding through our engineer, West Consultants, to see if we could get more, and the state granted us, as it says in your packet, 1.655 million in under the ARPA guidelines that they had extra funding, and then they granted us an additional 687,500 at 1.6.8% interest, and then it breaks down what we will be using those funds for. And of course, we were as excited back then of it being awarded to us. I'm still equally excited that this is in this phase, that it took us this long to go through and answering all the questions of what we was doing with it, how it was going to go, and where, and it's now done. And we'll just need your all's approval. I'll be glad to answer any more questions on that. All right. Number 9 is annexation request, non-contiguous BBC Rocky Creek, 19.5 acres. It's a resolution directing the clerk to investigate a petition. This is non-contiguous to our town limits, and you all have the appropriate paperwork there. It's off of Byers Road, 19.511 acres. Any questions on that one?
Where was it, when they first did, came through, we did the Rocky Creek, which is now Norman Creek, then over here at Byers Road, we're connected, was that not the one we approved?
It was a different parcel.
Is it the parcel was further
I think,
south?
as the crow flies, it would be southwest of this
Okay.
portion.
Because it did tie into Byers Road, didn't it?
Yes.
Okay, and then this is going going back out towards the 21, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because I was thinking that's where it came in, it's like the same one, I guess not.
This is actually Rocky Creek Phase 2. That property, when it came in for rezoning, was an ETJ. So this is just the annexation to bring that into.
So it is that piece
So
of
it is
property.
the exact same thing.
Okay, because I was like, that's what I was looking at thinking, that looks like what we did before.
It is. It's just officially getting that piece into our town.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out, because I was thinking that that warehouse I see on the other property there was that guy that lived down here on Wagner Street for a while.
Thank you for the clarification, I apologize. I thought it was partial right beside it.
Well, that's what was throwing me off there. I was thinking, it's like I've seen this before.
Turns out you have.
Any other questions on that one?
So that's phase two?
It was the phase two that you all already voted on. They had phase one that's closer to Bartdale Road and the, storage. This is the piece that did come out to Byers Road. They also have a piece, has not come before you all yet, that will be in the front, beside Tractor Supply.
Okay, but we haven't approved any development on that.
You have.
Yeah, we approved the development, we just didn't annex it.
This you have approved, the development of it being a residential neighborhood. It just has not been officially annexed into our town.
Okay, oh, wow. So
That's what was
okay.
throwing me off, because there was gonna be like targeted time 55 and older, whatever.
Yeah, age restricted,
Yeah.
that's what it
Like,
is.
I mean, restricted, it would be targeted or something. Other key words.
Targeted, yes.
Yeah. And that's why I was looking, I thought, gosh, I know I've seen this before.
Anything else on that? Number 10, recognition of our town employee of the month. We will have something wrote up for that. So I won't take any of that fanfare. Number 11, recognition of good Samaritan actions by 2 of our employees. I think that will speak for itself once you hear about that. One of those, that was his actual first week of working with us, so you all get to meet him too, Max Sutton. But I'm tickled to talk about those. There was a child that got loose and was running down the public highway, and they was able to keep injury from occurring and call the police. Standing reports. I tried to tell them to keep it brief, but you all see what you got.
What quarter is this for ABC?
Say that again?
Which quarter is this?
First.
First quarter?
Old business, items 14 and 18 were deferred from September to this month. And the applicant has request number 14 to be withdrawn for the annexation request. Number 15, the applicant has also requested to withdraw the rezoning request. Number 16, C&H Investment Holdings wanted to speak to you about his $300 fine. He has now decided he would like to withdraw his request. Number 17, development agreement between Wakefield LLC and Barium Springs Home for Children. This is something we have discussed, but we had to postpone it because the Children's Hope Alliance Board needed to speak with their representative first. I have not had an update. Have they spoke to you?
Concerning the board is supposedly, they have approved it,
They did?
and the copy of the ordinance that you have in your packet is the final draft that is approved by the board.
Any questions on that? Yes, sir.
Could I ask, Gary, you sent an email on this several months ago, and obviously it's a small book, but you referred us to some specific paragraphs to note. You said, the whole document's important, but these are super important, and I have lost that email, and
It had to do with what y'all were agreeing to provide for sewer capacity.
okay. Having heard that, obviously, has that been considered, I presume, in this agreement, that we are able to provide?
Yeah, we loosened up, I can remember now what it said, but we loosened up the language. And I think we changed the language so that it would be provided as phases occur.
Correct.
Rather than saying 500,000 gallons right now, it would say over a period of time, as it's developed. But it does start out with a minimum at the very start. That is a reserve.
In your email, you had listed exact locations, and as I say, I've lost it and couldn't find it, and when I went to read the document, and hence my question.
Yeah,
Page 9.
with the maximum reservation with sewer capacity for the entire project, it's on paragraph 11 on page 12. The maximum reservation shall be 556,500 gallons per day on a peak basis. The reservation does not intend to develop any more capacity than what is actually required for the residential and commercial buildings at the time such buildings are constructed and completed. That's the language that we added. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the town reserves and allocates to the project an initial sewer flow of 200,000 gallons per day, effective as of the date of the effective date of this agreement. Again, so I want to make sure y'all were aware of that.
You know, are we good with that, Doug? I mean, you know.
We are. We haven't signed our agreement with Statesville to make me feel completely comfortable. However, in our discussions with the mayors and their manager, I feel certain we will be sooner. They've not started doing any dirt. And just to explain what that means, once we reserve it to them, we're only going to have a certain amount. And they basically are putting themselves in line to where that amount is theirs, that we can't do anything with it for anybody else. So we are good for the verbiage and the language, and then as we have our agreement with Statesville, we'll be fine. If for some reason Statesville decides, nope, we're not doing it, we're still good with the quantity, it's just gonna cost us more money to pump it where it needs to go later. But we're still good with the allotment amount.
All right, sir.
Any other questions? Number 18, consider reappointment of Tanya Bartlett as the inside alternate member of the Planning and Zoning Board. We did do more advertising, made sure that it was properly displayed, and
Mr. Hinkle.
I'm sorry, I was going to bring something up and look down, and I failed to do it. Items 14, 15, 16, all three have been requested to be withdrawn, their applications to be withdrawn. Can we go ahead and dispense with that this afternoon so it doesn't show up on the agenda? We have to amend the agenda Thursday night. We just go ahead and remove those, you know, now, today, and, you know, our final agenda for Thursday night does not reflect these 14, 15, 16 withdrawals, and we have to amend the agenda to, since they've been withdrawn.
14 and 15, you advertised for a public hearing, and those have been advertised for Thursday. Gary can, of course, overrule, but understanding parliamentary procedure and the way it should be, I would suggest you just leave it there for Thursday and then dispense it at that time. Even though we know they're requesting to withdraw, the public has been noticed, and even though we know the withdrawal is there, the public has not gotten that in an official document or news source.
What do you think about 16, you know, the $300?
I think that could be.
Yeah, it could be.
I would like to, in light of that, then I'd like to make the motion that item 16, what's the proper term, be removed
Yes, sir.
from the agenda for Thursday night due to the applicant withdrawing his request or application for a hearing.
On a question, have we received the $300 from this gentleman?
I don't know the answer to that.
I do not know the answer to that either, but I do not believe so.
Whether his fine has been paid or not paid is irrelevant to the
Okay.
action. Just,
All right, no,
I
that
mean,
explains it.
all he's there is saying, hey, I want to withdraw it. Once we withdraw it,
So
then.
he's paying a fine,
Yeah,
Yes.
right,
yeah.
even though we haven't received it.
He's on, whether it's paid or not, he's still on the hook.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just not gonna
Yeah.
No,
listen
that-
to him
that-
Thursday
that-
night, appeal.
That that was you, but that was my question.
I understand, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It
understand.
was
No,
his
good.
request anyway to come and approach us about it, so.
Right, so he's giving up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So-
Checks in the mail.
So motion's on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, hearing none. Sorry about that.
No worries. Number 18 was to appoint Tanya Bartlett. As I was saying, we've advertised. I did speak to two different persons. However, they were fine to wait till some other date and look at other board options. I didn't talk them into or out of. They just asked me, was this a vacant position or who was serving? Once I explained who was serving and how they had served, they did not want to be competition. They were certainly fine with her staying and continuing. So that's on there for reappointment. Be glad to answer any questions or Lynn can clarify. 19, consider annexation agreement between the town of Troutman and the town of Mooresville. This is to explain as brief as I can on that one. It's what we initially requested 2 years ago, and without a lot of communications in the last year, or positive communications with the last year. This is something you all took action on in March, based off of my recommendations for wording that went unanswered. And then they appeared 3 weeks ago and said they sent to Gary wording that they would like to be annexed or consider. And I said, nope, we've already took action. Their options is to go with one they like or to vote ours up or down. They went ahead and voted with this. This is what we requested 2 years ago. No qualms with it at all. It's the
This
two
is one
lots.
that they voted on.
Yes, they have voted and already signed it at their last meeting. Once, if you all decide to go along with it, then it would be good for us. But yes, they have voted. Any other questions on that?
This included where we were looking at ABC store to go, properties.
Yes.
That-
The
that's- they gave
ABC
us that piece
property
there.
and the one on the corner.
Okay. And then we went down to Shepherd Road was the other push.
No. These are just the two properties, the ABC
Yeah.
store and the property on the corner at Firehouse Loop. We already went down to Westmoreland on the opposite side.
But now they go all down to Shepherd, right? Our border goes further down from Westmoreland down to Shepherd.
We have that in my packet.
Last thing under old
It's like the second page back from the very back of the old business.
What was your question, sir?
Well, I see that the border now goes down to Shepherd Road, so that's down below Westmoreland, right?
Yes, sir, that's the way it's always been.
Oh, it's always been, okay, 'cause I always thought it was Westmoreland, I didn't know it all went to Shepherd.
No,
It always had that, okay.
that is the old boundary line, yes, sir.
Okay, I was thinking it was just right there at that side of the road, not all the way down there, okay. So then all we really got was those two parcels there, then. Okay.
Anything else on that one? Annexation request, I don't even begin to know how to pronounce this. 3.5 acres, Houston Road, and number 20. Lynn?
This is an annexation of a piece of property that's on Houston Road. Excuse me. And there's actually a building that's been built there, built in the county. Excuse me. They did pull all their permits from Iredell County. I think their original intent was to stay in the county. As you all know, we adopted that new water and sewer policy several months ago. And this gentleman kind of got caught up in that. So when he came to us for his water tap, we told him he was going to need to annex into the town. So he's just following those procedures. So he is being annexed, asking to be annexed in the town to comply with that policy.
And that does follow our plans, and of course, we'll speak more to it if you would like for us to. I won't see any issues with that, and then, of course, by statute, once, if you decide to take him in on rezoning, annexation, then we have to give him a proper rezoning as number 21. Is there any questions on either one of those two?
And just to note too, the LI zoning that we are requesting is very close to what he has in the county. We tried to match it as close as we could. I believe he was a general business in the county, which is very similar to our LI.
Number 22, rezoning request of 42.25 acres, 134 Iredale Avenue on the north side of Murdoch Road, from the town of Suburban Residential to town of Troutman Light Industrial. Be glad to answer any questions pertaining to that, but that also follows our land use plan. And,
Is it already annexed in town?
We already annexed this, right?
It is in our ETJ. So we have zoning authority over it, and they will have to rezone it similar to the one we just spoke about before they get water or sewer. So
Seems like this
we
is the
have
property
not
in front of,
annexed it.
correct.
this was the property behind what we,
Correct.
Got you. Which
Yes.
we already approved.
right.
Right.
No. We approved the one, this has not been approved, this property, as the mayor saying, that's next to it. We have not approved this one yet.
Okay.
This will be in
I'm
the,
not confused. This is, we're talking about the industrial park up here.
Yes, sir.
From Murdoch Road.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
This would be phase 2 of what they're wanting to accomplish, and they're simply asking for the rezoning first, because it is in our ETJ, similar to that one other parcel. They can request the rezoning and then wait till they're ready to do the annexation. Any questions? That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions before Thursday? There's another one on Thursday, it's not annexed. No, like that.
I guess we were due for a long one, weren't we? We got off pretty easy. Yes, we was.
Don't do that.
3, 4.
We'll see what the OU set at.
You're trying to make it long.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is to go into closed session, pursuant to General Statute 143, 1811A3, to speak with an attorney. What do we need in the room?
The attorney and the board, the clerk.
Good stuff. Thank you. Is there a motion?
The clerks.
Is there a motion to go into closed session? Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Andrew, no pressure.